I am done removing the prop shaft. There was some issues. You saw it in the previous clip. Now I'm just going to loosen every bolt that holds either the Saildrive to the engine to the engine bed, or the Saildrive to the engine bed, just to make sure that everything is possible to remove in a fashionably manner. So I'm going to put the camera on time lapse, try to move the camera around and show what I do as quickly as possible to make the video bearable to watch. So let's go ahead and do this. I have decided to just remove these cabinet doors. Well, not cabinet doors, but these are actually the doors into the engine bay. So I have decided to remove these because it gives me a little bit more access to the engine, because when it's open it covers up this area, and I'm forced to standing a little bit further forward, and since most of the work that I'm going to do in this position is far off on the engine and the Saildrive, I figured it's just as well for me to remove them. Then I don't lean so much on the doors when they are open, and I don't put unnecessary strain on the hinges and so on. Reinsert the screws as well, because then I don't lose them, and I put them all the way in, so that when I move about I won't get caught up on the screws or the fasteners and rip them out or something. So this gives me a bit more access. So the next thing, now that the doors are removed to get a bit better access, I want to clear off this electrical system. So I'm going to start by undoing the main battery cable, and I'm going to do that with a live electrical system because I need the light in here. But I'm going to disconnect the battery as I'm working on the electrical cable, but I'm going to turn the power back on. To insulate this main battery cable, I have this something I found in the toolbox, and I don't know what it's for, but I think it's going to fit over this one. This is plastic, so it's going to insulate, and I'm going to put electrical tape to secure it to the cable itself. We have quite a lot of wind today, so that is why I'm at the boat. So if the camera is shaking, that is the boat moving. Why they've put such a big gauge of cables on this boat, I don't know. I have no clue. I don't see any good reason for it. Now this PVC pipe, plastic thing, covers this terminal, but I'm going to put some electrical tape as well, but that is just to secure everything in place. Now that cable should be safe. The rest of the positive wires, this one ends up at the charging relay over here, and so does the one from the alternator. So I'm just going to disconnect them from the charging relay, and they're out of business. So I just need to mark up which goes where. So this one is battery 1, this one is battery 2, and this one is marked A for the alternator. So this goes to the alternator, this one goes to the starter motor because that's the starting battery, I guess, and this goes to the house bank. So I I will disconnect these two wires, and then there's only the house bank left. It is tight quarters. Yeah. Now the positive and negative cables to the engine has been removed, disconnected, isolated, and it's all good. So, and also the main wire harness cable from the instrument panel and so on is also disconnected, so the engine is not connected to anything anymore. So the next part that I'm gonna disconnect is the exhaust hose from the exhaust elbow. So it's a big 40mm wet exhaust hose that needs to come off. They are usually quite stuck because, yeah, it's cast iron exhaust elbow, and it is hot exhaust and salt water. That is a horrible combination. So usually they are quite stuck. But if I'm lucky, this one ain't, because I think in 2019 the exhaust elbow was replaced, and now it's January 2022, so it's just been a few years, so perhaps I'm lucky. We'll see. So that's next task. So I'm gonna find a suitable camera angle, and we're gonna try and get this thing off. That was heavy. I needed to remove the mattress in the aft cabin here on the port side. Oopsie, let me see. So I removed the mattress, and I removed one of the covers or hatches underneath, so I could get my hands in behind the engine. And yeah, it needed some force, but using that oil filter spanner contraption, that worked really well to get it twisted loose from the exhaust elbow, and it looks quite good actually. So this was probably an easy one. So next thing is to disconnect some gear cables and the raw water intake hose, and then I'm gonna disconnect also the hose from the raw water filter and onto the raw water pump, because that will when I'm propping up the engine, that would be good if that was gone, because I'm gonna slide some pieces of wood underneath the engine so I can slide out of the engine room on some pieces of wood. So that is the plan, and then the hose is kind of in the way, so I need to disconnect it from one of the points anyhow, and I don't see any reason for why I shouldn't just disconnect it completely. So the raw water filter is this black box over here. That is now disconnected from both the Saildrive and the raw water pump, so that instead of disconnecting the hose clamps here, I'm just going to remove this whole bracket and yeah, get it out of the way, because everything that's not in here allows for more space for me to work. So, and then I have a perfect opportunity to really check this and clean it. I take the strainer in here. I take this one out a few times every season and clean it out, and usually it's just a bit of slime and so on in there, but I figure now I can really take it out, take everything apart, look at everything, see if there is any problems coming or if it's all good. So that's the plan. So I imagine I need to remove this whole wooden block, because I think the filter or the strainer or whatever we should call this is mounted backwards onto this plate, and that is correct. Here is the fasteners. The next thing that I'm going to remove is this. Here is an emergency bilge pump, manual one, that sits in the companionway. I'm going to disconnect this hose because that's coiled up down here. So the idea is, if everything else fails, and this hose can be put into the compartment with the most water and pumped out, so it's not dedicated to a certain area of the boat. This bilge pump was fitted because the previous owner used this boat for offshore racing, for regattas. So he was single-handed sailing this boat in regattas from in the North Sea, from Norway to England. And then it was required to have an extra bilge pump, so if the boat should capsize in a storm and break the mast and the boat is totally disabled and taking on water, you can just batten down all hatches and start bailing and try to stay safe until the rescue guys come. So yeah, it is installed. It's gonna stay installed, but I think I'm gonna route the hoses differently. I want to make this a little bit better than it is, but this is a flexible and good solution. I think I want to keep the flexibility, but perhaps more like a fixed installation. So we'll see in the future. But right now the hose needs to come out because it's quite a bit in the way. So out it goes. I just took down the anti-siphon valve and this is the anti-siphon vent hose, and yeah, it's good. It's been clamped up okay. I wouldn't have done it this way. I'm gonna change this, but yeah, cable ran down here behind these clamps for these coolant hoses, and this clamp was mounted so that it squeezed this vent hose flat. So that's the kind of stuff that can ruin an engine. I could prevent the anti-siphon valve from doing its work. So yeah, I think there is a small air leak possibility through this opening, so I guess it will work, but that's just luck. So this coolant tank or expansion tank or whatever we should call it just slides onto this bracket. This is the same. This is basically from a Volvo car actually, so it's pretty familiar to me. So to get it off the engine, just open up this lid, undo the lid properly. Like so. And that was the tank. This is perhaps the most manky area of the engine. It has been a lot of rust in front here, and I covered up most of it with some protective stuff that's probably cured it for a bit. But around this heat exchanger rubber cup and down towards this area, things doesn't look quite that good. So I hope I can manage to get these hose clamps off, but I'm not really optimistic. it's not going in the right direction. Well, I'm at the boat. I am at the boat trying to get this engine to come out of its goes a little cubby place in here and join me in the saloon. So what I have done today so far, I brought a sheet of aluminium. It's a 5mm aluminium sheet. And I also have a cross member at the back underneath the engine right in front of the Saildrive, because the engine bed goes down a bit there and you have a flat surface across, so this just rides across. And this more narrow sheet that fits in between the engine bed sits on that cross member at the back. So the engine is totally supported in the rear end now, and it still sits on its engine bed here, but that's it. I'm going to allow it to do that, and I'm just going to slide it out on this aluminium sheet. So that is the plan. What I need to do before I do that is I need to disconnect the throttle cable, the gear lever cable, and the manual stop cable. And also I need to disconnect the fuel return line and the fuel line from the fuel tank, or fuel supply system in the boat and onto the engine. So it's two fuel lines and 3 cables. And also I need to undo the 6 bolts that holds the Saildrive onto the flywheel housing in the back of the engine. And when that is done, I'm going to try to muscle this thing out of there alone. So let's see if that's doable. If not, I have some allies that I can call. Well, as you can see, the engine is now in the saloon, and that's all good. And yeah, now it's time to go and get the Saildrive out, because I would like to bring it home today, if that's possible. So I guess I will go and do that. So the first thing I need to do is rip off the rubber, yeah, the seal that's just for hydrodynamic purposes underneath the boat. It's yeah, it's a boot for to fit around the Saildrive, and it's glued onto the hull. So I need to rip that off. If you like to see how that's done, you can watch one of my other videos, because I did that on my other sailboat. I was a Yanmar Saildrive, but it's it's just the same thing. So I'm just gonna go out. It's starting to get dark outside, so it's no use recording it. I'm gonna rip that off, and we're gonna undo the rest of the bolts on the Saildrive and try and lift that out of the boat. The engine came out rather easy. I needed to go downstairs, wiggle the Saildrive about a bit, and wiggle the engine a few times, so I got a crack in the bottom of where the mating surfaces for the engine and the Saildrive, and I just went in there with a big screwdriver or a little crowbar, but I used a rather big screwdriver, and just popped everything apart. It just needed a little bit of persuasion, because yeah, I can explain that when I put it together. There's a ridge that fits really tightly into this hole, and that where that came at a little bit of an angle, it binded up a little bit. So just a small persuasion with the screwdriver, and it came apart. So that was really good. So now I'm just gonna get this done. To pull the engine out was surprisingly easy. So I went really well. Now it's time to get the Saildrive out. I've gotten the boot off, so now it's just a matter of undoing the last bolts and ripping this Saildrive out of here. I'm putting in the camera on the time lapse. So that was the Saildrive out. This is the clamping ring that is in need of some TLC. So I'm gonna sandblast this one and paint it with several coats of paint, and hopefully it's gonna look good after that. So this is the thickness of the hull. It's I can measure it more exactly later on, but Yeah, it is a bit. So that's good. So that was an empty engine compartment. No engine, no Saildrive, just a bunch of bolts. So I'm gonna wipe the dirt of these bolts now and put them back in the holes where they came out, so I have control over them. Here is the engine mount. Seems to be okay. So gonna take this apart as well. I'm gonna give it a bit of a sandblasting and painting. Try to make it look a little bit better. So the Saildrive sits in the cockpit, engine sits in the saloon, and now I'm just going to tidy up the boat and take the Saildrive off the boat, down the ladder and into the car and drive home. It is snowing and it's a steep hill up from here, so it's going to be interesting, but I have faith. So I guess that's going to go really smooth. So yeah, that was a bit of work done. Good day. See you next time.